Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. So I am making a lot of journals right now, and I need more pockets. I realize I'm low on pockets. And my first thought is always to pull out a piece of dictionary page and make more pockets, and I do that too. But I was looking for an idea for something a little bit different, and I saw something by a YouTuber who is new to me, and her name, I believe, is Caroline. I will look her up again, and I'll put her link below. And she had a piece, a video that she did about, it must have been about a year ago. I just saw it just very recently. But it was taking plain envelopes and making what she called a shabby grungy pocket. Maybe it was grungy shabby. I think it was shabby grungy. Both of those things. And she did it sort of as a little folder that had tags and some journaling space in it. I'm taking a simpler approach to it and making just strictly a pocket. It's a double pocket. It could even be seen as a triple pocket. You could make it as pockety as you wish. So I'm taking just more of a pocket-like approach on it, but the idea is hers, the inspiration is hers, so I really want to give her credit for it. Here is my twist on it. You can see it is both grungy and shabby. I like the grunginess with it. I think it will look great on a journal page. And let's just kind of find a blank page. That's just going to look super on something like that with some tags in it. There's a pocket here. You could make this an extra pocket. There's a pocket here. You could have a pocket behind. I don't like to load up my pockets too much and make them, so stuffed that that they, create a huge bump in a journal. So I'll probably just use put 2 or maybe 3 small things in it. But doesn't it look pretty on a page? I just love it. And it's made out of plain envelopes. And I was glad for that because I have a fair amount, excuse me, of plain envelopes. I get lots of greeting cards from charitable organizations, and I can use the cards. I like to use the envelopes too in craft projects, and I have tons of junk mail, but this tends to suit the greeting card kinds of envelopes best, I think, and I'll show you why. Here, let's pull out a white one. They're kind of thin, they're not the greatest quality, but as you can see, this one is just barely over 5 inches wide, and most of my pages are 5.5 inches wide. So 5 or maybe something that's a little bit narrower. This is actually 5. This might even be a little bit better, but let's work with this white one because there's a lot we can do with that, but it helps that it's plain as opposed to a junk mail envelope. And I have quite a few of my distress inks here handy. We're going to be doing a lot of inking. You could also use markers. You could use watercolors. You can, glue paper on top to change the color. You can do whatever sort of mixed media treatment makes sense for you. But I am going to close this up. Ugh. Ugh, gotta get a drink of water. I should have just used my water pen. And what I'm going to do is and this is the idea from Caroline, is to close up your envelope and then make a ripped edge top and bottom. And I love that. So I'm going to just do a rip here. Because that's how we're creating the grungy shabbiness of it all. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other. Now I'm going to hang on to these. So we're going to be doing a fair amount of ripping, but there is room if we choose to use our scraps. There is room for that. I'm going through all the thicknesses here. That's still a little bit damp there. There we go. That'll be okay. And then with the back side, this is the front of the envelope. This is the back side where I glued that flap down. And I'm just going to fold this up like this. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a little more tearing because I want to use this, now this is open since I want to use this part as a pocket and this part as a pocket. We certainly will be able to use the part in the middle too, but this is what I'm thinking of as the spaces that I'm going to identify as pockets just from the get-go. I'm going to come in and carefully take the front layer, what has become the front, and just tear in a little dip there. I'm going to ink that in a minute so you'll be able to see it a little bit better. There we go. And here you can see how this just dips down a little bit. It's very uneven. It's going to be even more grungy and shabby looking once we get it inked. That's what we want. So we have free license to make this as messy as we wish to. That's the look. But yet there will be a little bit of elegance to it as well. I'm trying to bring it up to a little bit of that point. So we've got a couple of dips here. Now I'm going to begin inking. So I'm going to, I might use my darker. I got some of the scorched timber. Gil Augustinelli is talking about that a lot lately. This is new to me. I got it recently when I was at Craft Warehouse. That is really dark. It's almost black, isn't it? Open this up a little bit so I can get this edge. And I do want to make this pretty grungy. I'll come in with vintage photo. Boy, that is really dark. I'm such a vintage photo kind of gal, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. There we go. Let me put this aside and I'm going to come back with my vintage photo. And I think I'm going to use my blending brush as opposed to the sponge dauber. And I'm going to try to get inside a little bit so that the bit of the inside of that envelope that we see isn't just stark white. If you tear it a little bit more, if you smudge it, that becomes part of the design. There we go. And I'll do the same here. Now that I've done that bump out edge, it's easy to tell which one is going to be the front. There we go. Now I'm going to come in with my green, and I do have different paddle brushes for different colors. I keep, I do all the blues with the, with the same one. I do all the greens. I might have several greens. I just indicate with a piece of washi tape what my color is there, so I don't get too hung up about it. I'm just going to put a little piece of scrap paper in here to act as a bit of a mask. We're going to do some green. And this is just because it's a color, a color combination that I started thinking looked a little bit like a landscape. You can kind of see where I'm going there. I'll put some more green down here, but you could do any color combination. I was thinking it might be even fun to line some of these layers with a piece of book page. Maybe we'll if we have time, maybe we'll do that next. I don't know exactly how long this is going to take. I'm going to come back in with my blue. Oh, here's my blue brush indicated with the blue washi tape. And I'm going to just put a little bit of blue here so it kind of looks like it's a little lake. And we'll do some green around the edge. And I am going to put a little bit of a focal point that I'll glue on top, but we can begin with this looking like a little bit of a landscape anyway. There we go. Now, for what I thought was fun, and Caroline did a version of this, I believe. I'm taking these little scraps and I'm going to ink them a little bit, and we're going to glue them here so they'll kind of look like another, like a little mountain range. Am I in? Yeah, I guess I'm kind of low here. There we go. And let me just ink these little, I'm just going to use my vintage photo rather than my, what is that called? Scorched timber. But there's a fair amount of scorched timber that is still on this dauber though. There we go, and get the, this is going to look nice and grungy. There we go. And this again, it's just the colors that are making this look like a bit of a landscape, a mountain range. But you know, you can, does not have to, a different color treatment, you know, whether you're using watercolors, markers, use whatever you like, whatever you have, you're going to have a different visual outcome with whatever you use. Use what you have. I like to tell you that, don't I? But I believe that. There we go. There's that little bit. And then I think I'm going to come back in with one more piece. And I think I'm going to make this blue, because as long as we're sort of going for the look of a landscape, I want to have a hint of a little blue sky up above. And these are, you know, I've got various layers on my paper there. I think I am going to pull that one off. But don't worry if you end up with rips and tears in different layers. That's what makes it grungy, shabby grungy. Yeah, I was really glad to find Caroline's video. I was not familiar with her before, and I very happily subscribed. I think that particular video was quite popular, so my guess is you might have already seen it even before I did. Haven't checked out anything she's had lately, but I was really delighted by just her whole style. This one I'm going to put on the top. So that's looking kind of cool. And because I want this to not take a real long time to do, because I've got to make a bunch of oops, I glued that on the wrong side, didn't I? I should have glued on the blue side. Well, that's some ink wasted. There we go. There we have it. There's just a little bit of blue sky up there. Blue sky smiling at me. And you. Well, my glue is ill-fated here. Part of it's sticking to the background page. Well, Anne, good heavens. Look what I've done there. Okay, third time is going to be the charm. I glued it on a extra layer of paper there and it came off. It's much easier than I'm making it look as I fumble my way through here. There we go. There's our little blue sky. There we have it. I've got another little scrap here. Do I want to add another layer? Here's also another one. I think I might use this one instead. And we'll just see how. I'm going to try sort of doing the whole thing like that, just for ease. Yes, I think I'll just glue that on top. Sorry, I'm probably partially off camera there, but you didn't miss anything too exciting. There we go. I'm trying to keep the blank spot at the bottom of the pocket fairly narrow. And I will glue a little something there for a focal point. Okay, probably not the most fabulous landscape in the world, but once it's on a journal page, I think it's going to be pretty good. I went through some of my cutouts to find things that were horizontal and narrow. I really like this rolling pin, but that's, no, that doesn't work in this outdoor landscapey kind of thing. I kind of like that vintage car. That is kind of cool. But I think I might go with these birds. I think the birds are going to be the way to go here. And I know I'm covering up part of this lake, but it's just the hint of that lake that I wanted anyway. So this is something I cut out of an ad in a Birds and Blooms magazine. Again, always look at those magazines. Pick up any kind of free magazine you can get at your library shop or rummage sales or flea markets or any place if they have free or very cheap magazines. Those are great ways to build your ephemera stash. I think I'll come all the way down to the bottom there. Get them centered a little bit. Oh, look at our pocket. We're going to glue it down the edges. Let's go back to our, well, this is my little idea book where I have lots of different ways of, do I like it on that page? I think I like it on this one better. Got all kinds of inks that are open here. Yes. Let me go. I'm just going to put it in. I'm going in. Realize I needed to trim that little bit off. Do I need to do some inking on the sides? I do. I didn't grunge those up at all, did I? There we go. Oh, I love the look of it. It is grungy and shabby. Makes me think of that's how my garden has looked lately. We've had so much rain here in the Pacific Northwest, and only the last few days has it been warm. I mean, we had some beautiful warm days in April. May has been chilly. And it's only been recently in the afternoons that I've gotten out to really pull weeds in my garden. I think I've talked about weeding a lot. The weeds will always be with us, won't they? There's a lot less of them now. I did lots of weeding over the last couple of days in the afternoon when it warmed up a little bit more. I'm loving this. Let's pull out a tag or two. I have some. I might have done these on camera before, but because I wanted to put birds down here, I thought that this might be a nice tag to put in here. And what's another one that could go? Of course, I'm going to cover up that bird. So maybe maybe I will go with kind of smaller things. Maybe I'll put a little spring. After I said earlier, I didn't want to load up pockets too much, but with those tiny little ones, that might be okay. I like this. I think that is just a pretty, pretty pocket. And it's pretty when you look at it that way, and it's pretty when you when you unload it, because you want to read the fascinating things that you've written on the back of this bird tag. Oh, I'm loving it. I am loving it. Let's take a different kind of envelope and see how we can do with that. Here's one. I think this is one that Julie Torrens sent me. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is about a year ago. I'm going to just, I'm using my water brush because I didn't want to get that gum taste in my mouth. There we go. And I haven't figured out how I want to decorate this one, but I think we want to do one in a way that's, that's not the landscapey kind. So I'm going to begin. Oh, some of that orange is going to be showing. That could give us a clue of how we want to, maybe we just want to celebrate that orange lining. That's kind of cool. Sometimes the piece itself tells you what it wants to be. So I'm going to maybe make a little bit of a bigger tear this time. And it's not tearing evenly, which is fine. Kind of watching the clock a little bit. Our Barney, this is on the day I tape this, we have Barney after school. And so we'll go to the bus stop and get our little boy. Barney is my 8.5-year-old grandson. If you're new to the channel, I hope you don't mind me talking about my grandson, because I do talk about him a lot, but he is so much fun. Okay, that is a little uneven, and I think I'm feeling okay with that. This is the back side that I want at the top, because it's going to be mostly covered up, and there's the good side. There we go. So here's my scraps that I can use. And I might just use these wonderful citrus colors just on their own. I think this is one that could really do without a lot of inking. And maybe just put one sort of focal point on there. Isn't that nice? That is really nice. Now, this is a little bit of a thicker envelope, so I might pry a little bit of this extra paper just to relieve some of the bulk where there's extra layers of paper in there. Nobody's going to see this. Well, you are, but you're not going to tell. There we go. That's just taking just a little bit of that extra thickness out of there. Yeah, that's going to lie nestle down a lot more nicely. I'm kind of liking this color-wise, the way it is. Let's maybe not make it quite as grungy and shabby as the other one, but let's maybe do a little bit of distressing. Oh, I kind of like the white showing. I'll tell you, maybe I'm going to pull off a layer here so I have the white core showing. See this, on this side, there's no white core showing because I was leaving this side behind before, but now I'm going to tear this the other way so I can expose some of that white core a little bit more. The side that gets left behind is the side that shows that core. I've kind of been warming lately to the idea of not distressing everything. There. Although just by tearing this, I seem to be making it a little shabbier than it was to begin with. Boy, that looks really summery like it is, isn't it? I'll tell you what, I'm going to go into one of the scraps here to see how I like the look. Yeah, just a little bit of light distressing. I just needed to give a little bit of give myself a preview there. And we're just lightly distressing that edge. Yeah, giving ourselves permission to ink when we want, or permission to not ink. You know, I tend to be an automatic inker, but I know, like Rachel from Roxy's Creations, you know, she doesn't ink things, and her stuff looks fabulous. I did that little rotating notebook the other day, and I didn't ink anything, and I'm really glad I didn't ink it because it ended up looking really nice without that. This one, lightly inked. Okay, yeah, that is just fine. I think I'm going, because this is a little bit thicker, I think I'm going to glue the edges down first. And then we can think about if we want to use these other scraps. Put a couple of clips here because this thicker paper is can be somewhat resistant to folding. It's only going to take a moment for these to safety pin there. It's only going to take a moment to really coax these down, but we can decide in the meantime. Do we want another row? That whole piece looks kind of cool there, doesn't it? I think I would still just keep the pockets here and here. I think I'm going to just use this little piece as I tore it off earlier, and we'll just call this one done. I love this bright citrusy color. I could make a teeny tiny little pocket at the top, but that seems a little silly, doesn't it? I mean, not at the top, at the bottom row, leaving this open. No, that's just silly. Silly for me. I would not want to tell you what to do. That little scrap there, and I think I'll again do just to define the edge. Not really going to grunge this one up too much. Yeah, tell me, do you have lots of blank envelopes sitting around? Kinds that go on greeting cards, you know, if they're 5 or just a little more than 5 inches wide. They're just a really good size for that standard size journal page, which is typically about 5.5 inches across. Here we go. I'm not going to glue this down into a journal, but we'll just sort of put it here temporarily on a page. Fill that with some pretty tags, and won't that be nice? I think that'll be really pretty. Something like that has a little yellow on it, and you know, maybe a little butterfly here. I might coordinate the colors a little bit more and to make the colors a bit more truly springy. But this little altered playing card, oh, that'd be cute. Yeah, that'd be nice. Anyway, get out those plain envelopes and see how you might be able to do a little ripping on the side and create an interesting looking pocket in no time at all. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.